Hey, Scribe. Welcome back to the Right Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Williams, author, book coach, and proud co founder of the Sunshine Coast Fiction Festival, which, as you'll hear in today's episode, turned out to be 100 times bigger and better than I ever dared to hope. Today's episode is a really special one because I'm joined by my amazing partner, Tim, as we sit down to reflect on the journey of bringing this incredible event to life. We're sharing the behind the scenes of what it took to dream big, take bold risks, and sometimes be willing to risk a bit of embarrassment or even criticism for the sake of something truly meaningful. You'll hear how our strengths balanced each other's weaknesses, how proud I am of what we've created together, and how this festival brought together the most beautiful, supportive, and creative community of storytellers and readers. We also talk about the collaborations and magic that have been sparked already and the exciting plans already underway for 2026. Yes, that's right. We're doing it again. Expressions of interest are now open for the 2026 Sunshine Coast Fiction Festival. And you can check out all the details plus photo galleries from this year's event over at sunshinecoastfictionfestival.com.au. So settle in and enjoy this very personal episode. It's about courage, connection, and creating something unforgettable together.
All right, so today I'm joined by Sarah to do the recap of the recent Sunshine Coast Fiction Festival that we co hosted together up here on the beautiful Sunshine Coast. And there's a lot of lessons that can be learned in this, so I wanted to really dive into that today. So, Sarah, how are you?
I'm still quite tired. I'm not going to lie. For about 4 days, I've had a really sore throat. I did a lot of talking last weekend. So I am finally recovered from that. The house is an absolute mess. We've still got to tidy things up. But I was riding the adrenaline for, the whole past week. It's just been a wild ride.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's one of the first lessons that really stands out for me is that it was such a fulfilling event that, we really developed a great sense of meaning and sense of worth from having put this on for everyone. And the feedback that we got was fantastic. And it's given us motivation to keep going, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, what started as an idea, when did we start planning? 2 years ago. It was basically because I was going to book signings as an author and I was going to places like Melbourne and Sydney and overseas. I'm like, why isn't there a book signing happening right here in the Sunshine Coast? This is a beautiful part of the world. We have amazing beaches, beautiful people, and lots of creative spirits. So I pitched this idea to you. And
Pitch is a good word for it too.
yeah, a little bit apprehensive to start with.
Yeah, and I think that's only natural too, because I mean, it was a big, hairy, audacious thing that the idea of doing something like this was a little bit scary. I'm not going to lie. But I think that's part of, the power of this lesson that you can take from this too is you had a really strong belief and together I bought in, you bought in, and we created this really firm idea in our head around an event that we wanted to put on to help assist other authors and other vendors and really start to connect that bookish community with a destination event. And when we were able to do that and put together something in the terms of we're doing this to serve other people, it just sort of all came naturally, didn't it?
It did. And the amount of support that we got from local businesses and local authors, local writing groups was just phenomenon. And they were so happy that someone was bringing this sort of a creative event, which was really more about building a community than me personally trying to sell books or courses or anything like that. This was simply just to support each other.
Mm.
I know we both share this belief that we would rather collaborate than compete. And this was or has been probably one of the greatest lessons that I've learned in the last 2 years, especially in such a creative endeavor where we have intellectual property and that sort of thing. Some people would rather just do their own thing. which is fine. But for the businesses and the people who did collaborate with us, we all did so well and we just loved and supported on each other, which was such a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, and I think there's an important lesson too. When you collaborate rather than compete, it does create a community of like-minded people. And it seems a bit esoteric, but it really comes back to your vibe attracts your tribe.
We did. And the people that came through the door, the people who bought tickets, they were just there for the people, for the community. They were interested in authors they'd never heard of before and merchandise they'd never heard of before. And the vibe in the room really was just a beautiful one. There was no really nastiness going on or anything like that. It was like everyone was so happy and just so much joy.
Yeah, and I think that's important too to really focus in on like the power of positivity. And when you do things from a heart-led perspective and, really dive into where's the positive in this, other people pick up on the effort that you're putting in, and then their energy matches your energy. And it was just this beautiful concoction of all the authors and vendors were really happy to be there. They were polite. They were helping us pitch in. I must give a shout out to a couple of our amazing volunteers who just absolutely went above and beyond to help everyone. And then that rubbed off across the author vendor community. And then that fed through to all the punters that came through the door. I mean, there was over 1,000 people involved in this in some respect over the weekend. And everyone's walked away with at least one positive memory to take from it.
Yeah. And it's still beautiful. They're still talking about it and there's little meetups now. Friends were made, new connections, new collaborations. I know personally I met a vendor who makes perfume and she has a whole trope line. Of course, I write cowboys, so she's got one called Wear the Hat, Ride the Cowboy. So we're collaborating. I'm doing a book box with my latest book and her perfume together. And it's just this beautiful synchronicity. Neither of us are competing with each other, which is fantastic. And we can both support and join together like that to spread the products wider.
Absolutely. And that's one of those things where when you're really in a flat spot or you're facing a real struggle or something that you're not sure of, either, through past experiences or through never having done something like this before, I think one of the important things is to really identify your values. And then what we did is we knew what our values were. And yeah, look, there were some people along the way that didn't quite align with that, and it was messy. It was not a good feeling to sort of have to part ways with some people and have some things said, but it was important, I feel, that we stuck to those values in order to be able to really bring about this energy, this positivity that we were able to cultivate.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. There were some really hard times. If you'd asked me a month ago, I would have said, I want this thing to be over. I'm done. And then day two of the event, I was like, how am I to do this again?
Yeah, I don't
Because
think it was quite day 2. I think it was on the drive home after day 1, you were like, "I wanna do this."
it was just, we could just see how much it meant to people and that love and support. I think, especially in my job where I am in my office a lot and I don't really have that much, physical one-on-one time with people in real life. And you start only, well, I guess you'd know this. You focus on the bad reviews and the bad things that are happening and forget about the good things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's an old parable about, 15 puppies in a cobra, and if I come into the room and throw in a bag with 15 puppies inside and 1 cobra inside, of course, the puppies are gonna spark joy, but that 1 cobra sparks a fear that's gonna hold you back.
Yeah, you're always going to know where that cobra is.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that we really did struggle at first to get over is, whenever you put your head up and say, "I'm gonna do something big and bold," you really need to buy into that vision and go at it wholeheartedly because there is gonna be people that your success strikes fear into them. So in order to rise above that and to continue, you need to be really firm in your beliefs that you want to put in for yourself. When you create that meaning behind being able to do something and be of service or whatever it is that you associate with, you really increase that motivation exponentially.
Mm. I know for myself, it was a very brave act for me, not just to be a major planner in this project, but also I was the face of it. So there were a few times where I felt personally attacked.
Mm,
So it was crushing. I have anxiety, I have mental health struggles. So it was great to be able to have you there to support and to work me through those points, which even just a couple of years ago would have been really, really crushing and affected everything that I did in my life. But I I felt the support from you and the other people who were really standing by us in this grandiose idea that we had of bringing 90 plus authors and vendors to the Sunshine Coast and having almost 1,000 people walk through the door and meet them. And then I took that even one step further because I was the one on stage interviewing Tenny Page, T.L. Swan, and Candice Fox.
mm.
And that for me as an introvert was a very scary thing to be doing. But now that I've done it, I am so proud of myself. I have never been this proud of myself, to be honest. And there were little bits that I'll criticize myself at. That is what I do. I was catastrophizing before the event. I was going, this is going to happen. I'm going to fall over or something and be embarrassing. But none of that happened. And again, it was all the love and support and you did really well. And I know I did the best I could have done.
Absolutely, and I think one of the key things that we sort of discussed afterwards was, to me, who knows you pretty intimately well, I could hear how nervous you were when you went on stage for that first interview. And once you come off, you had relaxed, you really fell into that comfort of, all right, I'm here having a conversation with a person. And yeah, there was 200 people sitting there watching you up on the stage, but you relaxed into the moment and you believed in yourself. And the transformation that I witnessed over a space of 5 minutes with you on that stage was absolutely phenomenal. And when you relax and when you just focus on being present in the moment, everything just seemed to flow so much more naturally. And I know that as soon as you came off stage, I was standing with your eldest, who's just about to turn 18, and he was so proud of you. Like he just glowed himself.
Yeah, it was definitely a proud mummy moment. He was like, I watched that. I watched you interview another romance author. Like, he's 18, that's not his jam. And he's just like, you did so well. I'm so proud of you. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be proud of you. Like
Yeah.
I'm getting emotional even now. All my kids were, well, three of the four of my kids were there for the weekend, and they all pitched in and we made it fun and we gave them jobs and they learned some responsibility and we just got to know some of the other people there. They even picked up some books and some jewelry and merch. So it became a real beautiful family affair, and not just our immediate family, but I feel like a lot of those authors have become family to me. Friends that have been sending me messages, sending me photos, singing the praises of the festival to other people that they know, like, you need to come to this next year. It was so good. So yeah, I'm really proud of all of us. And I think one of the things that I wasn't expecting, um, was how well you and I actually worked together on that weekend. I was stressing because the control freak that I am was like, I have to do this and I have to do that. And you were like, babe, I got this. You do that thing that you need to do, and I've got this. And once I really understood that you did have it, I was like, oh, okay. I know
Yeah.
my role now.
And I think that's one of the things too. In a lot of times we try to be everything for everyone. And one of the biggest powerful lessons we can really step into is realizing that the only thing that we can truly control is ourselves, our thoughts and our behaviors and how we interact with people. And absolutely, it's totally natural to want to, be in that position where you're taking control of every situation. And it's scary to rely on someone else. But I feel as though the level of connection and intimacy that you can create when you do become that level of vulnerability and really allow other people to step into their zone of genius and you step into yours. I mean, you were phenomenal on stage and you were just so confident and vivacious while you were interviewing. And that's something that I would really struggle to do. But you were able to really fall into that and shine because you weren't trying to pull yourself in every other direction all at once.
Yeah, and my table was definitely busier than I thought it was going to be, which was amazing. We actually have these matching tattoos, so it's hard to see, but they're yin and yang. Yeah, they're yin and yang, and I kind of feel like that is our relationship. My strengths are your weaknesses, and vice versa. And I think that's never been more apparent to me than the course of that weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comes back to finding those complementary people as well. And when you do, it's like, okay, well, here's a support that I know I can rely on. And it doesn't mean that they're going to be a support for everything, but you know that they're going to be that support you need for that particular thing. And it's such a sense of relief.
Mm. I also had many volunteers. We had many volunteers helping out. There were two or three in particular who were friends of mine, and they just stepped up. They just did whatever we needed them to do, which were generally aligned with their strengths anyway. One of them was a very much an extrovert and just, got everyone enthusiastic before the doors even opened. And the other one was very good at just controlling the crowds. So they just did that out of the goodness of their heart, and the event wouldn't have had the same energy without them being there. So I feel deeply fortunate to have all those people in my life now. And yeah, I'm just so grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's when you do allow people to shine and when you do have the trust in someone to really do what they can do, you'd be surprised at the strengths that people can show for you. And that came through. Like we allowed all the volunteers to sort of what do you feel most comfortable doing? And there wasn't any major mistakes over the weekend, touch wood, which is, phenomenal that that's occurred. But when there was little hiccups, it was just like, okay, this has happened. We can't control it. Let's move on. Let's do the most of this. Like one of the things that did occur was, a couple of the lunches were mislabeled and there was a few people that didn't get what they had asked for originally. But rather than let that spiral and become this, real point of consternation, it was a very proactive step to really step forward and apologize and go, look, this happened. I acknowledge it. Let's fix it together. And yeah, I totally appreciate and respect every single one of those authors and vendors that rather than making a complaint over something that they probably had every right to, it's like, hey, I appreciate you owning it and I'm not going to hold it against you.
Yeah. And the venue was really amazing. Big shout out to Venue 114. Karen there has been with us since we started planning this event 2 years ago. And the venue was amazing. Their staff were amazing. I think maybe they underestimated how many people were going to be walking through the door.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think that's one of the things too. We always had a very clear vision, and we always knew what we wanted to achieve. But there is that reputation hangover of, you know, let's be honest. You've been to a lot of book signings. Some of them have been absolutely huge in terms of numbers, and some of them have been really quiet in terms
mm,
of numbers. And until you're able to deliver, it's one of those, business lessons, I suppose. Don't promise the world. Just promise what you can deliver. And then if you can deliver more, go ahead and do it.
Absolutely. And I think even a lot of our authors and vendors that came, they came with what they expected to sell. This was the first event that we hosted. We didn't have any proof that it was going to be amazing. So they only bought a limited amount of books. And there were a lot of authors that at the end of day one had completely sold out of. everything.
Yeah, there was a few authors that sold out, and a couple had to go home and replenish, and, there was just so many beautiful stories like that. There was a young children's author there who was so excited that they'd made their record sales, that they literally ran through the festival to find me and give me a double high five, and it's just those beautiful moments of connection where we all celebrated each other. There was no real competition. It wasn't like, "Hey, you're selling the same sort of books that I am. I've got to outpitch you."
Mm.
It was all just beautifully heart-centered, and everyone was so supportive of each other.
Yeah. And I say this a lot to my writers that we could all be given the exact same prompt, write a story set in the outback about two brothers falling in love with the same girl. Let's just use that as an
That's
example.
a very random example.
And if 100 of us were given the same prompt, this amount of word count and everything else, we would all write completely different stories. And that wouldn't make any of them substantially better or worse than each other's. We all have our own voice, and we will all put a part of ourselves into that book that we are writing.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it an absolutely incredible um, artistry and creativity that, yeah, we aren't anyone's competition. There are way more readers out there than there are books, and always will be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what you've touched on there is super important to remember too, that when people are, taking on their individual creativity, someone can have a different belief to you, and just because it's not the same belief as you doesn't automatically make it invalid.
Mm.
And one of those powerful moments for anybody is to realize that, hey, my beliefs, my thoughts are valid, but equally, so's this other person's. And it takes away that need to communicate in a way that is basically trying to convince other people that you're right. And then when you communicate with that, egocentric sort of point of view, where it's like, well, I hear what you're saying, and this is what I'm thinking as well. That's where you find that middle ground. And I think that's what this festival has really shown, is that there is middle ground to be found, and you can't always please everyone.
Mhm.
But when you deliver an event that is really what you feel is what the world needs, people come and they respond.
They do. I always wanted this to be to serve the community, to bring writers and readers and bookish vendors together. And I think because we had a great variety, it was children's books, there were young adult books, there were romance, there were crime, there were thrillers, there was a little bit of horror, and then there was the amazing vendors with their incredible merchandise as well. So we didn't niche it down like a lot of the book signings that I go to, which are all dark romance or cowboy romance or something like that, because we kept it general, and we very strongly wanted this to be all genres, all ages, all welcome. We didn't want any discrimination. We just didn't want any bad vibes, basically.
Yeah, and well, there's absolutely a argument for having found your niche and really
Mm.
working within your niche. I think it's also important to take that step back occasionally and look at things from that macro perspective and go, well, maybe someone has been reading cowboy romance for years and they know, Sarah Williams is a cowboy author, but maybe it's not just the cowboy romance they want. Maybe it's something deeper. And when you can identify that broader need, then one of the biggest pieces of feedback that's been coming through in the forms that I've been reading is I loved meeting people outside of what I normally read.
Mm. Yes, we had TL Swan come with her business partner, manager, um, and she spoke to me in the green room that this is the only book signing that TL Swan is doing in 2025, which I'm incredibly grateful for. She was amazing. And they wanted to find new readers. So they didn't want to go to another romance book signing because they wanted to get a broader readership. And that's exactly what happened. There were women who may have come for Tenny or for tea, but then they bought Link Rawlins' book for their, you know, child or grandchild or whatever it was. And then they found a fantasy book that they loved, and they bought this merchandise that was bookish. And yeah, it was really beautiful. And I would say, if you like reading that, go and see that person over there because that's what they write. Or have you heard of this? And yeah, it was definitely that building community and supporting each other.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And I think it's really important to note there too that it is about community. And as humans, as much as we want to be individual and stand out and be unique, at the end of the day, we are still tribal, and community and support and connection is so central to what we need as a human being.
And as writers and creatives, we need people who understand
Yeah.
what it's like to have all these voices talking in our heads, and what it's like to do, some really hard work sometimes, and to do it majority alone in a dark room with a computer. So yeah, I found that incredibly useful. We also did the writers conference on the Friday, where we had AK Mulford, Stephanie Holmes, Cadence Snow, and Renee Rose all do workshops. And we had about 80 or 90 people attend that.
Yeah.
And this was a fairly high level marketing sort of strategy. It wasn't based on craft or how to string words together. But everyone who attended that was so grateful for the generosity of those people leading the workshops and how much they shared and the questions that they answered. Renee Rose did one on abundance mindset, which was quite woo woo. I'm not going to lie, it was a lot of the universe and manifesting and that sort of thing, which I love. That's my
Mm,
jam.
mm.
And I was really nervous to see how this one was going to be received. But you know what? I think that was probably one of the biggest hits.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comes down to our yin and yang again, because when you talk about manifestation, I automatically go, well, that's your reticular activating system. And, both of those points of view are completely valid because it's so true. What you put your focus towards, you will see more of. And we made a really conscious decision way back 18 months ago that we were going to focus on positivity, and we were going to focus on everything that was going to be good about this festival. And yeah, 4 weeks ago, both of us were like, oh my gosh, I think we've bitten off more than we can chew. This is, oh my. And our anxiety was both spiking between the two of us. But together we were able to ground, we were able to refocus on, hey, look, these are the positive things already there. And because we had that manifestation, we had that reticular activating system tuned in to look for positive moments, we found them and we absolutely were able to highlight them. And because we had that vibe about us that we were happy, we were positive, we were looking forward to these things, it rubbed off on the people around us. We were able to influence them, and then they picked up on that, and it just carried through the whole entire weekend.
It did. There were a few moments I just had to sit down when it got quiet, which wasn't very often, but I just sat down and I just took in the room and looked at everyone and the joy on the faces of everyone there. And it was just like, oh, we did this. We brought these people together. And I think so now that we've both decided to plan another one, um, we are hoping to make it at least as good as this one. Hopefully better, with different people coming in, and just yeah, building on that friendship base now that has grown over that past weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said at the start of this episode that we were able to create meaning for the event. And that has absolutely driven our motivation. And because it's been so successful, it's now got some real momentum. It's got some actual proof of concept. So, all of those things that we were really deliberating over and really taking our time to decide, because we were kind of terrified of making the wrong choice,
Yeah.
we're now just making choices because we know that intrinsically this is from a position of strength. This is what we want together. And it's just making the whole process run more seamlessly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm really excited, and I think that because we've done this together, our relationship is stronger now than it ever has been. Not gonna lie, there was one point there where I was ready just to go, "This is all too hard. It's either you or the festival." But we got through that, and, I really feel like if we could get through this first festival, then we can get through just about anything, so
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things, I was telling one of the, attendees earlier, you know, it's hard, of course it's hard, but there's the old saying that you can do hard now and easy later, or easy now and hard later, and I think that has really shone through recently.
Yeah, and I think there are well, I know there are authors in there who maybe only had 1 or 2 books and had never actually been to a signing before, and they're like, This was worth it. This was worth the money and the effort and the time to be here. Even if I didn't make a single sale, I am still surrounded by all this knowledge and advice and support from the other authors, from the people who are just a step or maybe 10 ahead of you and just so willing to help and support.
Yeah, and I think that that's a good point too, is, everyone at the festival was able to make at least one sale. And even when you don't succeed in the short term, you're planting the seeds for the long term. And what we know and what these newer authors are discovering is that you might not have an instant return on instant gratification while you're in that moment, but you know that every time you go to a book signing, a couple of weeks after, you see the uplift on your ebooks, you see the uplift on your website books, and that's what this is about too. It's a lesson in putting yourself out there, being brave, and going, "Hey world, this is me."
Absolutely. Do you have any final words?
No, I think I've pretty much talked my way through this.
Thank you so much for joining us. Our next festival is locked in for October 30th, 31st, and the 1st of November in 2006. So we have 11 months to plan, and I'm not going to lie, this one already has some crazy ideas. And I'm usually the idea person. So even now the tables have turned a wee bit, and I'm like, rein it back in. So watch this space and see what happens in 12 months.
Amazing, I can't wait for it.
I hope you enjoyed getting a peek behind the curtain with Tim and me as we shared our experience creating the Sunshine Coast Fiction Festival. It truly was one of the most fulfilling and terrifying things I've ever done. But the joy, the community, the conversations that came out of it, absolutely worth it. And we're just getting started. The 2026 event is already in motion. And if you're an author, reader, or industry professional who wants to be involved, head over to sunshinecoastfictionfestival.com.au to express your interest. You can also browse through all the fabulous event photos there too. In upcoming episodes, I'll actually be sharing some of the powerful author interviews that happened live on stage at the festival. You won't want to miss them. As always, thank you for being here. If you'd like more support in your writing journey, make sure to visit serenadepublishing.com for free resources and courses designed to help you write, publish, and thrive. Until next time, keep writing, keep dreaming, and keep showing up. You never know the magic you might create. Bye for now.